Hey Algebra 1, thanks for tuning in. We're going to be looking at 6.1 Part 1. There's going to be 3 parts to this lesson, and we're going to be focusing on different properties of exponents. Today we're just going to be looking at 0 and negative exponents, and you're looking for 6 things to write down in your notes. So let's go ahead and get started and write down number 1. The very first thing is we want to know what is it for a 0 exponent, what do we do for a negative exponent. For any non-zero number, so meaning like a, so a cannot be equal to 0, otherwise it's undefined. A to the 0 will be equal to 1, so you can have like 4 to the 0, 5 to the 0, 6 to the 0, a million to the 0, that's all going to be equal to 1. If you have 0 to the 0, it is undefined, so this sentence is important to write down. And then if you'd like to, you can write down these 2 examples here. The same thing is true for negative exponents. For any integer n and any non-zero number a to the negative n is the reciprocal to make a to the positive n. So if you have 4 to the negative second power, you would write that as a positive exponent by just putting the 4 to the second on the bottom and keeping a number 1 at the top since there's nothing else up there. So you would write it as 1 over 4 to the second, and you can even reduce that down to 1 over 16. The same thing is here. A to the negative n would be 1 over a to the positive n, where a cannot be equal to 0. So again, it'd be helpful to write down this sentence here for negative exponents, as well as maybe this example too. Let's go ahead and pause here for number 1, and once you're done, click play so you can see how it is done. So these 2 are just 2 examples of negative exponents and 0 exponents. The first one says 6.7 to the 0 power. That one's easy. That one's just going to be equal to the number 1. For letter B, it's a negative exponent. So just remember, in order to create a negative exponent and make it a positive one, we have to write the reciprocal of it. So what I normally do is just write a line for my fraction and then decide where it needs to go to make it positive. Technically, this is on the top of a fraction or the numerator of a fraction. So to make it positive, I need to bring it down here. So that means it would be negative 2 to the positive 4th power. Remember, only the exponent changes to a positive. And since there's nothing left up here at the top, I'm just going to keep a 1 up there to keep my answer correct. I can go ahead and simplify each one of this because I do know that negative 2 to the 4th power means negative 2 times negative 2 times negative 2 times negative 2, or 4 times 4, which is equal to 16. So I would have 1 over 16 as my answer for this one. Okay? So the next few we're going to look at, numbers 2, 3, and 4. You're just going to try that very similar to what I just did. Number 4 is kind of like a hybrid of both the 0 exponents and the negative exponents. So just try your best on those. I'm going to give you time to pause the video now so you can try it on your own. And once you're done, click play. All right, number 2 should have been easy. Anytime you have something raised to the 0 power, that's going to be equal to 1. There is a certain case, though, where if you have like a negative 9 to the 0 power, you would still do 9 to the 0 power, which is 1, but then you'd also keep the negative. So just maybe keep that in mind for future reference. That is without the parentheses, though. With parentheses, always positive for 0 powers. For number 3, to make this a positive, we would need to write it as its reciprocal. So we would need to pull that 3 to the negative third down to the denominator to make it 3 to the positive third. Again, since there was nothing left on the top, we would just put a 1 up there so there's at least something, and then go ahead and evaluate. 3 to the third means 3 times 3 times 3, which would be 9 times 3, which is 27. So your final answer for number 3 should be 1 over 27. The last one in number 4 on this page, we have negative 5 to the 0. I'm going to go ahead and do that one. That one's equal to 1. And then I have this, it's equal to negative 1 because there's no parentheses. And then I have this 2 to the negative 2nd power. It is not going to stay on the bottom. Instead, it's going to have to go up here to be a positive 2 to the 2nd power. So now I can basically just look out negative 1 times 2 to the 2nd power. Well, I know 2 to the 2nd power is equal to 4, so I'm basically timesing negative 1 by 4, which is negative 4 is my answer. So just be careful with when we have parentheses versus when we do not. Here's number 5. So this one's a little bit more challenging. We're going to see another challenging one on the next slide too. For number 6 is your last one. This one has 4x to the 0 power over y to the negative third. 0 is only with the x, so just keep that in mind, and -3 is only with the y. So just make sure your exponents, those are always numbers that are right next to the number or the letter. Let's go ahead and pause here so you can try number 5, and once you're done, click play to check your answer or see how it's done. Alright, what I did here, I did rewrite this in my notes as 4x to the 0 power over y to the -3rd. And then when I start to rewrite this, I always just rewrite my fraction bar and go ahead and start with just one thing at a time. The first thing I'm going to start with this is number 4. The number 4 doesn't have any exponents with it, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to still keep it on top. Then I go to x to the 0. X to the 0 is going to be equal to 1, so I'm just going to write 4 times 1. Now that I'm done with those, I'm going to go and just cross them off, so I know that I don't have to worry about them again. Now I have this y to the -3, and it looks like y minus 3. It's y to the -3, but I need it to be positive. And remember, I need that to go up here to make it positive. So I'm going to actually put this y to the +3 right next to the +1. So now I have 4 times 1 times y to the +3, which reduces and simplifies to 4y to the 3rd. Okay? Number 6, same type of concept here. Take it one step at a time. I would go ahead and rewrite this in your notes. 3 to the -2nd times x to the -5th over y to the 0 power. And then eliminate one thing at a time by placing it on your fraction, either in the numerator or the denominator after you've simplified it. Let's go ahead and pause the video if you haven't already. Try it on your own, and then click play to see how it's done and check your work. Alright, so the very first thing I started with was 3 to the -2nd. I do need to make that a positive, so I'm going to pull that down here. So 3 to the +2nd power. And I'm going to go ahead and cross that off so I don't have to worry about it again. The next thing I'm going to look at is x to the -5th power. Again, that one needs to be positive, so I'm going to bring that one down here as well, next to the 3 to this +2nd, so x to the +5th. Woohoo! And then I also have this y to the 0 power on the bottom. That one's still going to be equal to 1. So I'll have 3 to the 2nd times x to the 5th times 1 all in the bottom or in the denominator. Since I don't have anything left in the numerator, go ahead and add a 1 there. I can go ahead and simplify this down even more. So I'm going to keep the 1 up top because there's nothing else I could do with that one. 3 to the 2nd means 3 times 3. So I'm going to go ahead and write that as 9. Again, crossing off as I go. X to the 5th can't be simplified anymore, so I'm going to write that right next to the 9, and then times 1 will just keep it the same. So my final answer for number 6, 1 over 9 to 9x to the 5th power. That's going to conclude our notes for today for 0 and negative exponents. Thanks so much for tuning in, and we'll catch you next time.